Do you have physique imbalances you'd like to correct, joint aches and pains you'd like to get rid of, and exercises you're struggling to get stronger at? Well, all can be remedied by correcting muscle imbalances, which are often the root cause of these problems. So in this video, I'll help you to understand why you have muscle imbalances, and I'll leave you with some practical takeaways so you can start to fix them right away. So let's start by categorizing muscle imbalances into four main buckets. The first is front to backside muscle imbalances, in which there is a size or strength discrepancy between front-sided muscles like the pecs and quads compared to backside muscles like the lats, spinal erectors, glutes, and hamstrings. Then we have left to right muscle imbalances. This could be a visual difference in muscle size, such as having one bicep bigger than the other, or it could be a strength imbalance which is exposed with unilateral training and discovering that you're much weaker on one side than the other. Top to bottom muscle imbalances are quite self-explanatory, and the most common scenario is what happened to SpongeBob when he got jacked. And that's what happens when you skip leg day. Don't worry, I've been there. Lastly, and most insidious, is when the smaller joint stabilizers are weak relative to the big prime movers surrounding a joint. There is no better example of this than the shoulder. A paper published in 2016 revealed that 74% of lifters had experienced shoulder pain within that year, and it was attributed to this kind of muscle imbalance in which the external rotators and lower traps were weak relative to other shoulder muscles. I imagine these statistics are much the same today. Okay, now that we've covered that, let's explore the reasons why these muscle imbalances are so common and what we can do to fix them. Three culprits stand out. The first is unbalanced exercise selection. Many people will base their exercises on the muscles they want to see pop. For men, mirror muscles like the pecs, shoulders, and arms tend to be favored, and for women, it tends to be all about the glutes. The problem with choosing exercises based on aesthetic goals is that it means you're probably neglecting muscles that have important strength and stability roles in the body. So how do you balance your exercise selection yet still cater for your aesthetic goals? That brings me to one of my favorite quotes from the world of strength and conditioning. When you train muscles, you forget movements. But when you train movements, you never forget muscles. There are 7 fundamental movements: squat, lunge, hinge, horizontal push and pull, and vertical push and pull. Most exercises that you do in the gym fall under one of these categories, and it's a good rule of thumb to try and have a balance of these movements across your training week, whether that's once, twice, or thereabouts. It's also a good idea to mix bilateral and unilateral exercise variations for each movement. Take horizontal pulling. You could do one seated row and one dumbbell row in your current block of training. If you can follow this advice, you're going to build a much more balanced physique. You'll correct strength ratios between muscles, which is so important for staying healthy and pain-free, and you'll get so much stronger all over. So what about muscle isolations and single joint exercises? They absolutely have value. Think of them as subcategories of the fundamental movements. They can be used to bring up weak links or lagging body parts that you want to give extra attention to. Next up is improper exercise technique, because if you adopt poor form, you'll develop muscles in an unbalanced way. So here are 3 major form errors to watch out for. The first is not setting up in a good position. Take split squats. Performed with an upright torso, you'll put a lot of strain on the back knee and fail to load your glutes. What we actually want to do is lean forward slightly so that most of your weight is under the front foot and the quads and glutes are loaded evenly. So always be mindful that you're setting yourself up for success. Next is moving too quickly. Performing a dumbbell row like this is barely engaging the back. It would be better to pause at the top and slow down the negative to increase tension on the target muscles. So the key takeaway is to slow down and control the movement. Lastly is moving through an incomplete range of motion. In this chin-up example, my elbows are bent at the bottom and I'm hiking my shoulder blades to get my chin over the bar. The opposite should happen. The arms should straighten at the bottom and the shoulder blade should drive down to get my chin over the bar. So always be conscious that you're moving through a complete range of motion. Those quick tips should be helpful, but the long-term solution is to master the 7 fundamental movement patterns, because as you've learned, most exercises that you do in the gym will fall under one of these categories. And if you understand the main themes of each movement, you'll improve your form across the board. Stay tuned to my channel because I'll be doing a lot more form videos to help you in this area. The last common culprit of muscle imbalances is mobility and stability limitations. This directly links to improper exercise technique because both are foundational to good form. For example, from a mobility standpoint, if you can't get your arms overhead without the ribs flaring, then you simply won't be able to perform an overhead exercise like seated shoulder press safely. From a stability standpoint, if you don't understand how to brace and breathe correctly, then you won't be able to maintain a stacked rib cage over the pelvis during compound movements like RDLs. Your spine is likely to flex or extend, which means you won't load the target muscles very effectively and will instead place undue stress on the spine. Fixing mobility and stability limitations is way beyond the scope of this video, as both are complex topics. But the solution is going to involve dedicating some time to performing exercises that will improve your mobility and stability. For example, exercises like the 90-90 hip stretch are great for improving hip mobility, and exercises like dead bugs are great for improving core stability. You can include mobility and stability exercises within your weight training workouts, but if it's a big limiting factor for you, then it's going to be wise to dedicate some time separate to the weights to work on these all-important fitness attributes. I personally like to do a short routine 2 to 3 times per week paired with cardio. Again, stay tuned to my channel so you can learn more about these areas of fitness. Okay, that was a lot to take in, so let's summarize the key takeaways. Train movements over muscles, ensuring that you balance your exercises across the 7 fundamental movements. Be conscious of good form and work towards mastering the 7 fundamental movements. Dedicate some time to working on your mobility and stability. If you can follow this advice, you're going to build a much more balanced physique in which muscles are well proportioned, you'll clear up a lot of aches and pains, and you will see your full body strength soar. I really hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like it, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what else would you like to learn. I'll see you again in the next one.